up, Hacksters? Today we are talking with Bilal Ghalib, who is someone that I met in Ann Arbor like 12 or 13 years ago, something like
Indeed.
that. What are you up
Yeah,
to these days?
man. Well, when we met in Ann Arbor, we were working on the hackerspace out there, all hands active, and still working on creating communities around learning, around open source hardware and creativity. So these days, I'm working in Egypt part time with the Elk crew, and we just launched this awesome new prototyping board for what we're calling Decent IoT.
Oh yeah, so tell me a little bit about it. We can pull it up here. There we go.
Yeah, so it's the dev board for the decentralized world, and the reason why I'm really excited, and I've known Am almost as long as I've known you. I first met him at the Faire in Egypt in 2011, just after the Arab Spring. I was really interested in connecting with the Middle East, and and I've been kind of circling around Am for a while, but once I realized how IoT is basically getting into every orifice of our lives. They're like in our cars, in our doors, in our refrigerators, and they're all talking on the easiest channel to talk on, which is the internet. But
Right.
the internet, obviously, we've seen in the last couple of years a bunch of privacy and security issues with different organizations not handling our information the way that I would like my information to be handled. And so we started
Yeah.
realizing that, we're going to build a whole new infrastructure connected to the same old internet, but we have an alternative. And the only reason we're not using the decentralized architecture of the internet is because of a lack of simplicity and easy to use. And so Elk basically just makes it as easy to build IoT devices that can unlock your door with decentralized technology by making really easy to use SDK, kind of like an Arduino. And so that's the big idea. The big idea is do what you normally do to build awesome IoT devices, but make it 18 times easier.
Oh
That's
yeah,
very subjective.
that's super cool. So you get rid of the whole like security versus convenience trade-off. So there's an Arduino compatible SDK, and there's also your dev board that you're talking about, which looks pretty sweet on its own. Honestly, you've got like 20 something GPIOs, which is pretty great, and a ton of PWM pins among those. And then you also have this mobile app as well. And all
Indeed.
of that, the code looks so simple.
Yeah, it should look almost exactly like you're working with Arduino. I mean, like this should look very familiar to anybody that's running Arduino code right now,
Mhm.
except you could do stuff like connect to smart contracts, and all of that stuff is abstracted away. Although it's open source, and so of course you can go and dig in and see exactly how the stuff is working. But we try to make it super simple for anyone to start playing with this world. And this is the other important thing that's my big job at Elk
Uh-huh.
is I realize that this world is opening up a whole new set of possibilities because we have a whole new set of superpowers. Like we have identity now. Previously, we had to have someone like Google or even GitHub prove that I wanted to do stuff online by having my username and password and be like, you're you because I said that you're you. And now that stuff is going to be able to be baked into things that we own. So when you buy something, it's kind of connected to something that you can use to create signatures. And what exactly is digital signatures, and how does it relate to identity, and all of this stuff, and how does it what is it going to allow us to do? So what is it going to allow us to do now that we can do things like run smart contracts and have automatically executing code that communicates with each other and transfers things that like tokens and all of these things I don't really know, and I don't think anyone has a really amazing use case of it coming out in the world. And so my job is to help people begin to dream in that world by this very simple 3-week boot camp. It's basically 3 days, and man, we've only run one,
Uh-huh.
and people have made some weird things already, and that's always my favorite part. Is
Great.
I kind of share a little bit of knowledge because I'm not a super expert. I'm learning with everyone else. I feel like this world is so new that we're all learning together,
Yeah.
but we kind of open up this door of like, hey, what does this do? And then people's creativity just unfolds, and it's been really fun to see what people have been up to.
What kind of weird stuff are people making?
So this is the assignment. I decided that everyone needs to take the standard smart contract and update the function. One extra function, right? One extra function into the standard ERC20 smart contract. And somebody made exploding CryptoKitties, where it was basically like CryptoKitties, except once you got a CryptoKitty, you had, I think, 24 hours to give it to somebody else. Otherwise, it would automatically destruct. And so this created this. And the interesting thing is we learned a lot in doing that. So in the exploding CryptoKitties world, there was a whole bunch of gas usage, and the whole smart contract crashed because it was kind of exponentially growing, and people like sending CryptoKitties to each other in the class. And that was just one example of.
There's a problem of scaling, huh?
Yeah, and then
that's the
we
best
started to realize some of the solutions as well in that process. And so it's a very kind of community-oriented, curiosity-driven exploration. And I'm excited to run the next one pretty soon. I'm not sure when exactly, but we're going to be doing that probably sometime during the campaign. So if you're curious, if anybody's watching this and is like, you know what, I don't even know what to do with all this like blockchain, whatever, crypto scam, I don't know. Listen, it's something that's interesting. It's cool, it's different, and it requires us to think about what we can do with some of these interesting new features like smart contracts and digital signatures. Let's not be scared, because personally, I used to be in the hacker scene, but I'm more of like a tinkerer nerd dude that wants to do fun stuff. And I'm not really deep into that privacy and security stuff. But there's some really interesting things that happen when you learn just like enough to be dangerous and to start to play in this world. So if you're curious to play, join the bootcamp. It's free, it's fun.
Fantastic.
And it'll help you get ready for when the Elk is released. And maybe we actually already have a running list of new kinds of projects. Like some people are thinking about scientific instrumentation. This is a cool one about how does the Elk and the ability to do digital signing on sensor data relate to open source science and confirming experiments and being able to say, like, I ran this experiment, I can prove that I ran this experiment, and here's my data, and I can prove that this data hasn't been tampered with. So like that came out during the bootcamp last time, and it's an idea that's beginning to form. So cool people are meeting. I want to meet more cool people. You're probably cool people if you know this cool person. So let's hang out, join the bootcamp, and let's play around.
Sweet. I'm gonna run real quick. My vent just started making airplane noises. 1 sec.
Your vent?
There's like a vent here. I'm in the hotel in Dearborn because I'm here at Maker Faire Detroit. My first ever like official Maker Faire like was 9 years ago here. And speaking of like you meeting Amr in at Maker Faire Africa, this is just so appropriate right now. But yeah, there's a bunch of different projects that have already been featured. You've got in your Kickstarter campaign here, emphasizing how easy it is to really give yourself privacy and security. Smart door locks, electric outlets. You don't have to go through anyone else's servers, so no one else is going to be tracking your comings and goings. Like we've seen issues with people's landlords, for example, requiring them to use services that would track when they went in and out to be able to unlock their doors. You don't have to do that anymore. You can sell your own data. You can bet on stuff. You can do oracles, which is something that I hadn't heard of yet, which is, where you would put a sensor on this and use it to trigger actions in smart contracts.
Yeah. So basically an oracle is a method for bringing in stuff outside of the smart contract world. So if you want to be able to do an assessment on a smart contract and be able to like prove how something works, it's you really want to have a very simple, very clean code. And once you start messing with things outside of the blockchain world, like that world over here, the one that's connected to the real world that IoT connects with, for instance, you have to do things like oracles to be able to bring in outside information. So that's what that's all about. And I wonder why the word oracle was used. It always reminds me of the Matrix.
I think people just think it's cool. Oh yeah. Yeah, that it's like something that peers in like outside of your application and brings back information, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's other projects you've published before too. So it used to be called Elkrem, and we talked with Amr in almost exactly a year ago about Elkrem, which is what it was before. And
Yeah.
under that name, there's like a few projects that the team built. This Bitcoin candy vending machine. It's obviously not all about cryptocurrencies, but these were the projects
Yeah.
that were already made.
So yeah, Elkrim, if you want to know what it stands for, is
Oh,
Merkle backwards. Super
what?
nerdy. So the Merkle tree is,
Oh my goodness!
yeah, surprise. And that was another one of
Okay.
my innovations. I don't know why I'm around because everything I do is basically a pun. And
So you're the
I
one who
was
came up
sitting
with
there and being
decent
like,
IoT.
Elkrim is hard to say. Okay, let's do something different. Let's just call it elk and then have a crazy looking deer with its tongue sticking out, you know? And at first they thought I was kind of weird, but now we have elks, we actually use the elk as our mascot and I kind of like it. It's a fun,
Yeah.
goofy name.
And you also came up with this decent IoT term, which is sort of like the idea of it being decentralized, but also it's simple. So it's not like people have to know about what decentralization is or how cryptocurrencies work or anything. They don't even have to make a wallet. You would just like call the API and then you're good to go.
I think all of that's really important to emphasize because I'm sure we're going to get a ton of people being like, this doesn't have like hardware backed security. Like, could I really use this to store my cryptocurrencies? And a lot of these questions around the privacy and security stuff. And what we're emphasizing is the fact that both there's two communities that I think would be really interested in playing with this stuff. There's people that work in the line of crypto but have no idea about electronics. And then there's all the electronics people that are like, what the heck is a wallet and what is what is this whole world of decentralization? And so we're trying to make it really easy for both of those kinds of communities to play with the other person's tools. It's definitely not, like it's possible that it can be expanded and added like with some additional hardware. Like you could take the open source electronics files and add the hardware security aspect and make it a more secure system and then store a bunch of Bitcoin on it or something. But it's not designed to be this ultra secure thing. It's designed to make it dead simple to be like, I want to be able to interact with smart contracts. And I am a electronics engineer. I don't know how to do that, but you could do that with a couple of lines of code now. Or you could be like, hey, I'm interested in decentralization, but what happens when we stop just messing with bits and bytes and actually start trying to interact with plants or my
Or
car
punching bags.
or a punching bag?
Yeah,
And
proof of workout, which I also love.
yeah, puns, man, puns make the
Yeah.
world go round. That's for sure. But yeah, so we want to make it super simple for both of these communities to be like, let's make some weird stuff. And I'm pretty excited because even with the tiny class that we just ran, without even getting people's getting the elk board into people's hands, we're already seeing a bunch of creativity come forth. So
That's so cool.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah, you can check it out. Like I think it's just community.elk.cc, and if you can check it out now if you want, and then you can start looking into the which one. You'd have to click the one that says blockchain for
Ooh,
bootcamp
ideas.
or elk ideas. Yeah, the plastic recycling receptacle. That like you'll
Ooh.
start to see, like people are already coming up and putting up ideas. Yeah, the blockchain reporting of scientific instrument data. That one's really cool too.
Oh yeah, and you can host that data on the IPFS, the Interplanetary File System, right? And that's another decentralized
It's right at
information
the top.
storage method, but it also includes lots of stuff for being able to verify that the data in the file have not been tampered with.
Yeah. And the whole decentralized 3D printing and milling, this idea that, I think Brie Pettis used to say, sell atoms, not bits. But I think that this is just one of those ideas. It's like, what if you could actually sell bits as well? Because you would be able to send it as a file that would only be able to be unlocked if the smart contract allowed the 3D printer's address to print. So you'd be able, like once somebody made an interaction with a smart contract,
Are they
then
talking about DRM for 3D files? I mean, it could be a good
I
thing.
know, it's not my thing. This is my idea. It's somebody else's idea,
Could be
but
really
it's just
useful
one
for
of the
some.
ideas that's coming
Yeah,
up on the community. You can see a whole bunch of things on that site if you start playing around. Um,
totally.
yeah.
I don't know.
You can actually read my comments over there. I'm like, this isn't really my thing.
Uh, so for people who are interested in coming up with their own ideas, this contest is going on now. The elk board won't be available yet until March, although you have some prototypes.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that we're thinking about doing, if people are listening to this and they want to like put out a message, I've been thinking about setting up a live stream elk board with some pins connected to stuff. And you could even just, as basic as it is, we could, I don't know, make a GitHub repository or freaking email me the code or email somebody the code. We'll upload it for you and you can like watch it working, because I think it would be really fun to get people to experience it as early as possible.
I like that remote operation of the.
Obviously, that's too much work. But if a bunch of people will start messaging us and be like, "Yo, guys, I really think it's an awesome idea. Live stream the elk," I'm sure we can make it happen.
That sounds cool.
March is the earliest beta, I think, for the shipment date.
So then, yeah, people could, in theory, work with you to make and build an idea for this this contest that we have going. It's with IOTA, and you are blockchain agnostic, so you work with Ethereum, IPFS, IOTA, and Bitcoin, all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that we have as a reward is we will implement your SDK implement your protocol on our SDK for I forget exactly how much we've decided, but yeah, like if people wanted IOTA, they could sponsor that tier, and our team will get working on making. Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but it is a bunch of people in the office.
It's very affordable for what it is.
So yeah.
All these cool things that you're offering. You can do a workshop, you can be a beta tester, you can, and that's if you want to like really get it before everyone else in December.
Oh wow, yeah, that's great.
Get all these kits and stuff. Yeah, y'all have a bunch of cool stuff. The board itself seems really cool, and I love how you include these early prototypes and stuff.
Oh yeah, actually, you know what? I might have one with me.
Oh yeah, show us the board.
Please, 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 please. No, I do have one. Let me see. I gotta check my backpack. I normally carry it around. Oh no.
Okay, I'll have a look at the site while you look for that. So yeah, it's got 28 digital pins, 10 analog pins, 2 UART, 3 I2C, 3 SPI, and 21 PWMs. You can control 21 servos. If you can power them, you can control them. Yeah. That'd be ridiculous. You could track like 21 different things and hook them up to smart dials. Showing the real-time value of your wallets or whatever, or different types of data that you're pulling off of the IPFS. All kinds of cool stuff. Or you could be monitoring 10 analog sensors for different open science stuff. It'd be super cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about like the specs. It seems pretty robust. It's a nice size. It has a tiny elk on it,
Yeah, cool.
The early versions have like a little Tutankhamun head on it.
Cool.
It's pretty fun. We have a pretty great team here or there in Egypt. So I'm currently in Lebanon right now, but yeah, and we're definitely very responsive. So if people wanted to chat with us, go onto the community page. It's easy to make a account, and you can start messaging us there, or you can add a comment to the Kickstarter. Anywhere is really great. But
yeah, cool. So that's. Sorry?
And as well, and fingers for typing. But,
yeah, so that's community.elk.cc, and people can follow your adventures at elk.cc, and you can go to the bootcamp at elk.cc/bootcamp. All kinds of cool places to check out the neat stuff that you're doing. And you're already over your goal by $2,000. Congrats.
Yeah, I think everyone in the office is pretty excited about that. We're amped, especially because, like, for me, I want to have basically I would love the world of IoT that's beginning to like blossom into our lives. I don't know how many millions of devices are being connected onto the current architecture of the internet, but I would love it to be basically a no-brainer for somebody to build products that enter our lives, that respect our privacy, that is something that I own when I buy it rather than it owns me. And it's not even something people think about, because the architecture that we're building on is decentralized and has a like privacy and security baked into its core, basically.
Yeah, and
So
there's so
yeah,
many services and objects that we use that sell our data without us knowing about this. And in this case, you're like, you can just have it be completely, not exposed to those types of services, or you can even sell your own data if you want, but you have control.
yeah. I've been a part of these communities for ages that have been like, you have to read the terms and conditions. But I don't. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't read the terms and conditions. It's too long. It's not something that I'm really into.
I feel
And
like it saved like 5 years off my life so far.
presets make the world go round, but presets are decided by partially it's a two-way street, or a couple of ways. It's like a three at least. There's legislation, and GDPR shows that kind of stuff, and so presets now, like, the internet is more annoying because of all the cookie buttons, right?
Yeah, yeah,
These days I've been inundated with like, hey, by the way, I'm doing cookies and I'm going to try to make it look innocent, but
yeah.
anyway. And then so there's legislation, and then there's the people that actually follow legislation. There's market interests and the business being like, man, we don't even know what we're going to do with this data, but it's going to be really cool if we get this data, okay? And then there's the architecture of the internet. Like, before HTTPS was standard and was everywhere, people were sharing a lot of public information. And I think Google recently had to do a class action lawsuit to pay people, because when they were doing the triangulation with Wi-Fi, and they had the cars driving around, they were picking up a whole bunch of extra data and just saving it. And they say it was an accident, but that's just because how the internet was working and how the structure of the internet was happening. But now with HTTPS, and so all of these different forces are coming into play that creates the environment where we are currently the product, basically, or like we are having our data being sold and sometimes being hacked into and being leaked, and there's just a whole bunch of weird situation. And we're not in the very, very beginning of the explosion of IoT, but if you look at some of these charts of how fast, how many devices that aren't people's laptops or phones connecting onto the internet, we are at a point where it's important for people to start really thinking about how are those devices going to get connected to a web. And I really would love if the thing that we're building really, even if you're just spreading the message, not necessarily the campaign, but the idea of decent IoT, sort of like free range chickens, and not like, eating eggs unless they're free range. Yeah, the types, okay? But like that for IoT. And
I see like free range chickens tagged with these things so you can prove that they were free range and they were running around and stuff. Chicken oracles.
Chicken or
yeah,
like the red egg or the blue egg.
It's also about, it's not just privacy and stuff, it's also about resilience, because, for example, you mentioned GitHub authentication, and there's all this hubbub right now because apparently GitHub is now, because Microsoft bought them, has been limiting like who you can collaborate with, like where they're from, which is kind of, I don't know all the details, but with a system like this where you don't have to rely on someone else's authentication, you have complete control and you can be totally resilient to that kind of thing.
We did a fun thing with Whisper. Have you heard about Whisper? So it's not just, okay, I think people think of like decentralization, and I've been kind of struggling because I don't like using the word blockchain, like, oh, I work for an IoT blockchain, because of how many scams there were and how many people got burned. And they forget that there's something innovative and new happening with the technology. It's been, I don't know, a while since P2P and other types of things, but it's gotten this kind of bad taste, and I really am excited to get back to talking about what are the basics behind it.
So what's the deal with Whisper? I see it here on your campaign.
Yeah, so Whisper is super cool because that was the third week of the class, and people generally think we're going to be talking about blockchains, but Whisper is a secondary service that is, you can enable it on your Ethereum node if you want to be able to host a Whisper node as well, but it allows you to speak in what they call darkness. And so even when things are being shared and they're encrypted, there are ways for people to begin to piece together something about the people communicating just because of the patterns that we use. And so actually I have a friend, one of my friends that I learned the word decent from, his name is Vlad Yoler. He works at the Share conference, and he does a lot of research on metadata, Facebook, and other things. And he was able to pull a lot of information just from metadata from email, for instance. And so Whisper does something very interesting where instead of route.
Oh no, connection dropping.
To basically a bunch of people, and then only the people that can decode the message know that it's for them and they can read it. But the other really important element is they continue to relay it onward. And that has nothing to do with, you know, a blockchain that lives forever and that it gets added into a long chain, and that, you know, that this stuff is actually evaporates, and it's just another type of decentralized protocol that we can use inside of Elk that I think is interesting. So I think it's important that people don't just think like, oh, blockchain, because there's more than just blockchain in the world of decentralization. A lot of it is just basically taking this like asymmetric key and encryption stuff and public and private.
A little bit more lag. We'll be right back, I assume. Oh no, Bilal is frozen.
Are you frozen? Okay.
Oh, there we go. Hey.
Yeah. I wish I had a board to show you, but I'm moving around a bunch these days and I don't know where I put it. Oh.
It's all good. We'll grab one as soon as it comes out.
December apparently is the earliest.
Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, so I guess since we're kind of cracking up here, maybe we should wrap up. But thank you so much for talking to us about this. Congrats on the success so far. And you've got 42 days to go. 42. It's going to be awesome.
That's a special number of days.
It's the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much.
All right, Alex. Yalla. Have fun at Maker Faire.
Oh, yeah.
Give him a big hug. Man, this whole maker scene stuff, all the changes is super interesting. And, you know, just give everyone there a big hug. They've been a big part of my life. And it's great to talk to you. I can't wait to actually hang out in person again. It's been a long time.
I know, right? Someday we're going to actually meet in person again. It's going to be awesome.